Okay, guys. So you've spent time, if you like, calculating this. Imagine you've done all those calculations. That's what you need to do, and you need to talk about that. Whether you think it's increasing or decreasing, or if you like, you can, as I say, it's just looking for adverbs that is getting worse. It's getting worse. Now, here's the thing. I mean, you could then I guess you could take the general, and this is what I'm saying. This is the key point. Why I'm saying this is what I'm not giving you any marks or sort of saying this means that they will not be able to meet their short-term liabilities in the short run. Well, that's a given. That's a given. That's like a level 1 discussion. So I'm not giving you any marks for that. What I wanted again is, like I say, I want us to exhaust the numbers first. So we sort of know things are getting worse. The question says evaluate. Why are things getting worse? I mean, yes, there's this question of a consequence, but it's about the why. If you haven't told us why, there's no need just telling us what this consequence is. And there is a bit of information here to tell us why, and you need to keep looking for it if you like to try and discuss why are things getting worse, not just the consequences. So just reflecting back on some of the papers, the reason why, you see, you can't quite, yes, consequences are good, but you can't jump from AO2 to AO4 just because you're talking about consequences. You think you should be fine if you haven't told us why, right? And the why is purely based on technical, looking at the numbers. Okay, great. So what I've done here is to try and break this up a bit, which is what you're trying to do. That's your current ratio, 1.2 to 1. 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1, 2.4 to 1, right? And this is 2014, 15, 16, 17. Right, so you can say, I mean, of course, yes, we know it's obvious that for every pound you owe, you only have 40p available, and that, of course, looks quite tricky. So now here's the thing. We can see straight away here that if we were to try and make up this 1.2 here, we can definitely see that if this is the liquid capital ratio, I mean, this bit together is 0.4. This bit together is 0.8. This bit together is 1.4, and this bit together is 1.9. So you could argue that if I just put 0.4 here, and 0.8 here, and 1.4 here, and 1.9 here, I'll just look for a different pen color. You could sort of see that I could argue that over here, well, if this is 1.2, I must have in inventory 0.8, because 0.8 plus 0.4 is 1.2, and here I must have 0.7, and here I must have 0.6, and here I must have 0.5. So we can see that somehow we have inventory building up steadily over, if you like, the years. As we're going from 2014 to 2015, we can see an increase in the inventory composition, which you could already kind of probably have thought about. Yes, you might already have suspected that. Let me just erase that, get that out of the way. So we're looking for reasons here. So here's the problem. The first problem must be that if we have the increase in inventory over the years, it means that we seem to be holding more. We seem to be holding more inventory as we go. Let me see. Sorry, this pen is going. We seem to be holding more inventory as we go from 2014 to 2015. And if you like, our trade receivable and bank seems to be falling as we go from 2017 to 2017. So we now can have some better understanding of why we're having liquid problems. Well, the first is that they must have a lot of cash probably tied up as inventory. right? So we can see that over here. Inventory is taking up a large proportion of that current ratio, if you like. And that, if you like, I mean, literally, inventory here is double. Inventory is twice trade receivable and bank. So there's a lot of cash tied up, you know, as inventory. So that's kind of the your first situation, first thing to go to, and then, because what this is the real answer here. The fact that you have broken up that current, ratio bit, especially the current asset, the top. At least you've broken that, and you can suppose that. You don't exactly know, because we don't know what the breakdown of trade receivable and bank is, although we will go again and look at the other ratios to help us. But we can definitely see that inventory is beginning to become, so now what we're trying to do is look for reasons to see if this is true. If this is true. Now, we don't have a trade, an inventory turnover day to help us. We can't see any inventory turnover days, but we can see some other things. We can see some other ratios that can help us. So we seem to have cash being tied up in inventory, right? Because this question is about liquidity. Let's see if we have any of the cash issues. So let's come back here. Let's come back to the table, and let's see what we also see. Let's see what we also have. So first of all, we've been able to separate inventory somehow out of these two, because that should be easy. The next thing we can look at again is we can see the trade receivable days increasing. So what you need to do again, why not, is to show that percentage increase over the years. And what I want to mark in the exam is I want to mark the yearly increase and the overall increase from 2014 to 2017. So what we now have as well is a situation that cash is tied up as well in trade receivables. So I don't know, but I could suppose that a large percentage of these guys are actually trade receivables, right? So who knows? Maybe this is actually 0.3 and cash 0.1, and this was 0.6 and this was 0.2. I'm just trying to break up trade receivables. I don't know, but you can see clearly the trade receivable days are increasing, and because they tell us. So that's the technicality of this, not just sort of coming up with some general excuses. We're being technical here, and then we can come up with our consequences. But we can see that increase in trade receivable days as we go from as we go across from one year to the next. So calculate that. The next thing I can also see clearly is that trade payable days are falling, and why not? You can show the fall in trade receivable days. Do the calculations. I want to see the calculations. So now here's the issue here. If inventory days are taking up a greater percentage of my current assets, if trade receivables are increasing because I'm not getting my money back from my customers, and if trade payables, if you like, are reducing because I'm paying too early, or what you can suppose after talking about the numbers is that you don't have the same goodwill anymore, and suppliers want you to pay for the invoice with cash, and we can see that because well you're holding a lot of inventory. We'll talk about that in a second, but we can now clearly see strong evidence for why you don't have as much cash anymore. Right? So 3 good reasons, and they will always be the same: trade receivables, inventory, and trade payables. So that's kind of the start. That's where you're going, right? And I haven't even used any other information from the data, if you like, given to me. But let's just kind of, I'll stop the video there, and that's the second part. So what you can see me trying to do is to bring in trade receivable days and trade payable days in this discussion using the numbers, right? Using the numbers. Okay, I'll stop this video here and I'll go on to the next, to the final part.